Hey, it's Biddy Penny. Welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to be making a plethora of Polaroids, faux Polaroids, and cabinet cards. So, to start off, we're going to go through some supplies. I'm going to show you many different ways to make these cards because I know we all have different supplies. Here are some printables that I have in my stash. And these already look like Polaroids. Well, that work is already done for you if that is what you would like, but we are not going to make them like this. We're going to do our own thing. But you could easily cut these images out and make what I'm making today. I have some other ones. These are from Roxy Creations. Oh, I love Rachel. And I think that you can use buildings, flowers, people. What I'm loving is adding all these to my junk journals. So you can use Tim Holtz. We will use some Tim Holtz today. Maybe you have a bunch of, just imagery that you love or that is themed to your junk journal. I have this History of Art book that I will also take an image from today because yes, you can do that as well. So we'll just take this Roman building here and, just source your images wherever you like. Okay, I have a heavyweight cardstock, and for me, that is important. I'm talking about like 110 heavyweight cardstock. I think 65 could also work fine, but for me, the heavier, the better. Then I take my imagery. Now, when I first started, I kind of had a template of 4 inches by 3¼ inches, but I threw that out the window after having made about 50 of these to where really any size goes. But if you do make a template, I'm showing you here, you can kind of cut your image down, whatever it is, to fit inside your template, and then you can make a bunch of them. If you're using 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper, I would advise you to do something like 4¼ by 3.5 or 4 by 3.5, like just so that you get the most of your paper. You're going to have very few scraps if you use those kinds of measurements. But then again, if you're making little bitty ones, which I'll show you with the Tim Holtz images, then think of your paper differently. But you can kind of size them with your paper in mind to have minimal scraps. Now, for me, I love to put acetate on mine. If you don't have acetate, then you could skip this step. But to me, this is the really important step that for me makes it feel complete, and so I don't skip this step. You can get packages of acetate at Amazon. I'm sure you can find them at office supply stores. And then I love adding some of my faux Scotch tape, vintage tape here. And all I do is put my Scotch tape on those cheap silicone baking sheets, and then I put alcohol ink on it. Very easy. For this one, I wanted to add a date. I added my daughter's birth date, and I just love this. What a beautiful way to remember somebody, to remember their birthday or something like that, to have a beautiful flower and their birth date stamped. Maybe I could write on the back about her and her birthday. She turned 10 this year. These can be used in all kinds of ways in your journals. They're gorgeous on greeting cards. Just whatever you like. Look at those inky fingers. That stamp gets me every time. So here I am showing you kind of like a basic template that you can do. But I really just don't think it's necessary because your images can come in all sizes. These are some of the little Tim Holtz images that you sometimes get with like his different ephemera packs or the photo booths. You could do this with the photo booths that he sells, and I just think they're super precious. Most all of these measure 2 inches by 2¼ the white paper, and then I just glue the little image down, and you could leave it right there. Again, that would be fine. But I do want to use acetate. So maybe think of acetate from packaging. This is a piece I got for free at a swap one time, and it just had this really pretty design on it. And so I decided to use that on this one today because I just wanted to show you that, you know, you can source and use all kinds of acetate. So I'm going to cut that and just kind of move it around. I didn't want it covering her face necessarily. With this one, because it had that printed design, I can put my glue behind the design. But typically what I do is I use my white PVA glue, and I just put a dab of glue in each corner. And that's all it takes. Now, to me, the more you press it down, your glue in the corners, once you have a little dot, and it only takes a little dot, then I really, really press it down. Does it show through? Yeah, it does. On some photos more than others, and to me, that adds to making it look like more authentic. Back here, I'm just going to write NO dot, like number, and then put some lines so that it like cues someone to write something on the back. Like, hey, this is a journaling surface. Here, I'm going to show you, it doesn't have to be pictures. Again, it can. These are the tiles that Tim Holtz released. And so you could do definitely botanical, again, anything that matches the theme of your journal. So once I got hooked on making these, I have been putting them in every single journal that I make. So I either put a Polaroid or I put a cabinet card, which I'm going to cover with you guys next. So, but before I get there, pressed flowers. Okay, I made these flowers. They came from my garden, and I make them in the microwave super fast. So you take a bunch of paper towels, put it on a plate, put your flowers between them, and you microwave at like 30 seconds at first and then 10 seconds after until your flowers feel dry. Okay, that's it. That's all it takes. It's so easy to make your own pressed flowers. You don't need expensive gadgets, or you don't have to wait 6 months. I do it in less than a minute. My yard is full of flowers, so I just run out, I pick some flowers and come back in, and I'm good to go. So I'm going to kind of put this flower off in the corner. Now, maybe you don't have a yard full of flowers, or that doesn't sound like something you want to do. You can buy pressed flowers really inexpensively online. So there's another source for you. You can buy faux pressed flowers at Hobby Lobby. I love them. They're gorgeous, but they're just, to me, too expensive. I can have the real thing real quick and easy. Anyways, pressed flowers, I always want to use them, but the only way that I will use them in my journals and cards is if they're under acetate. So this is the perfect project for them. Okay, so here, I'm just showing you, like, I didn't have a pre-cut dimension. I wasn't using a template. I just kind of cut everything down as I go. The important thing about both of these projects that I'm sharing with you today is that you just make adjustments for your liking, for your resources, for your photos. Make them any size. It truly doesn't matter. So the Polaroid was developed and released in the late 1940s. So if you care about that kind of thing, then I would use the Polaroid picture design for any journal that's themed after the late 40s. And then the cabinet cards and CDVs, I'm not really making any CDVs here today, but those were like 1800s, okay? So those were like 1870s and on. Well, actually 1850s is when CDVs were created in France, and then the cabinet cards came later. So I'm going to make some faux cabinet cards with y'all. What I'm doing here, y'all can already see I put my flower on, I glued it down, I put my acetate on, I glued that down. I'm picking out a sentiment. I used a little bit of my faux vintage tape there, and I just adore this one. You know, you have to start somewhere, right? So let's jump into those cabinet cards. I love cabinet cards. So typically they would be like housed in this kind of cardstock sleeve, and the front and the back of the sleeve would advertise the photographer's studio. Here again, I'm showing you that my cards that I want to use are all different sizes. And I'm just going to roll with it. You don't have to. You could cut your images down to fit in a specific size if you wanted to. But I'm just going to roll with it, and I'm going to use this gray cardstock. Now, this is 65-pound weight cardstock from Michaels. I also like the cardstock from Hobby Lobby. I think either one is fine for this project. It doesn't need to be super heavy weight. And I do like a gray. Typically, the ones that I've always seen are either brown, like a dark brown, or they're gray. So I do have these sticky photo corners that I also got at Amazon, and I'm going to use some of those today. But don't worry, if you don't have photo corners and you're not trying to shop, I have an alternative, which is also historically accurate, okay? I don't even know if the photo corners are necessarily historically accurate. I just liked them. So as you can see, I have a few of these cabinet cards that are different sizes. I've kind of matched up the photos with them to match their sizes. And now I'm going to decorate them. I don't have photography studio stamps. Like, I don't have faux stamps that represent a photographer's studio. I just grabbed ornate stamps that I thought would work. Okay, so I have this one from Blue Fern Studio, which I think was a great choice, and I'm just going to line it up here. Now, I've seen a lot of cabinet cards that have either just like black stamping on them, but I've also seen a lot of gold. And so what I'm doing here is I'm going to stamp this out with my VersaFine Onyx Black ink. And then I'm going to heat emboss 2 of these with a gold embossing powder. I love Onyx Black ink if you're embossing with a colored embossing powder. I would never use it for like a Tim Holtz glaze or anything, because that won't work. But it gets such fine detail from the stamp. And then if you use a fine detailed embossing powder, you can really get some gorgeous results. So yeah, I heat embossed 2 of these with this kind of gold crest. It just, to me, looks aged and vintage, and like it fits the time period. So those 2 are pretty much done. But not everyone wants to heat emboss. I respect that. So I have these gold strip of stickers. These you can get really inexpensively from hot off the press. So check them out if this is something you're interested in. And they're gorgeous and amazing. It's like a nice vinyl sticker. And so you could use something like that. But don't worry, I have even more ideas, which I will show you in this video. First, I definitely think that distressing the edges of the photo and distressing the cardstock kind of sleeve itself is really important. To me, it just makes all the difference. So I distress around those. And then in this one, I'm going to use those photo corners. So these are stickers. You know, they're real photo corners, first of all. But they have like a sticky back. The old time ones you used to have to like lick and stick like a stamp. But these are new ones, so you don't have to do that anymore. If you don't have photo corners, don't sweat it. This is the other way that you can do this. You can just kind of cut these slits and, you know, just go 1/8 or a quarter of an inch in on your corner of your image and give it a good slice. You don't want to be too you don't want to cut your corners too long or too short. Either way could be pretty frustrating. You don't want to damage the integrity of your card, but you also don't want to deal with like a really small cut. This was perfect. On these, I just stamped with black ink on the cover, and then I brought in my Dollar Tree favorite metallic pen, and then I'm just using my mat and my ruler, and I'm going to just put like a couple of gold embellishments kind of on these. So on that one, I put them on the cover, and then on others, I decided to put them a couple of gold lines there on the back. Embellish these however you like, you guys. You could use like a memory stamp, and you could put pictures of your own family or children or grandchildren in here. I had this Tim Holtz correspondence stamp set, and I used the handle with care. I just thought that was fine and worked for me for this project. So here I'm going to show you again. I'm actually going to show you like a side-by-side comparison of distressing and not distressing. Now, you guys, I don't distress a lot. I don't like distress everything that I make with vintage photo. I really don't. But some items really need it. So there's the front. Let's just take these side by side. So the inside distressed, the backside distressed and not distressed. I think it makes such a big difference. And make sure you distress those backs of your photos, those little corners that peek out the back. Also an important little detail. It's all in the little details. So here's a bunch of examples. These are things that I just love making and adding to my journals. They're quite fun. For me anyways. They're probably going to be one of those projects that you're either hooked or you're not. I have a ocean themed journal that I'm working on. I have a aviary bird theme journal that I'm working on, and then I'm working on my Asteroid City Wes Anderson journal right now. So those are 3 I'm working on. These are ones I just keep in my stash. So I have a little box and I keep all my Polaroids in it. I keep Polaroids that I want to make, Polaroids that are made, and scraps of paper to make Polaroids. So when I am using my heavyweight cardstock and I have leftovers and I think they're the right size, I pop them in there. Aren't those girls amazing? Those are from Sweet Pea Curiosities on Etsy. I love her shop so much. So here are my cabinet cards. This is one that I had made for my Anne of Green Gables that I showed you where we embossed the cover. I've lost the other 3. They are among my lost ephemera. Here are some ones that have imagery for my ocean themed journal that I'm working on, which is just really fun, and I might have extras, which is fine as well. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Let me know what you think down below. I hope you'll give these projects a try. I thank you very much for spending your time here with me. I just adore you guys and hope that you have a very crafty day. See you next time. Bye.